Another Monday Night Raw, in the ring they clash. Smackdown Friday night, body slam with the crash. The casual guy talking, don't let it pass. He spits the truth in the wrestling podcast bash. From the top ropes they die for the belt that bends. Blood, sweat, and tears, they reap what they spend. In the square circle, lives twist and then listen to the tales, the casual guy's intense. From the top ropes they die for the belt that bends. Blood, sweat, and tears, they reap what they spend. In the square circle lives life, twist and then listen to the tales, the casual guy's intent. Tune in to now, hear the Raw Show, WrestleMania, Wrestling Wasteland. Heroes fall, villains rise and dance the violent dance. Chairs, tables, ladders, stakes, the audience in a trance. The casual guy breaks it down chance by chance. He peels back the curtain, gives secrets a glance. Podcast waves reverberate like a count. Each move, each fight, not just for the clout. Standing tall in chaos, what it's all about. The casual guy tells it raw, no doubt.
Alright, here we are. We're back. Thank you for tuning in. If you're tuning in today, maybe you're live, maybe you're not. Either way, it's all good with me. I just want to first start off by saying I apologize for last week's episode. Man, I feel like I got totally backed up between SummerSlam, Monday Night Raw following that, the Friday Night Smackdown following that, and then another Monday Night Raw. So I don't know. It just felt weird and I didn't love it. So with that, I did a little reflecting this past week and thought maybe it's a better idea if I recap after each episode of Monday Night Raw and Friday Night Smackdown. So that way I'm not just backlogged with a bunch of stuff that, I don't remember every single little detail from the past week's episode. So here we are on a Sunday. And today we are going to talk strictly about last Friday night SmackDown. We'll get right into it, starting with the Nia Jax and Tiffy's celebration for Nia Jax and her commemoration as the women's Universal Champ. Okay. Let's go ahead and do this. Sorry, I'm still learning, so bear with me. But let's talk about the celebration. Let's go. There we go. I like that. We had the coronation of Nia Jax, brought to you by Tiffy Time. And Pretty Deadly. So it seems like there's a friendship that's forming between Tiffany Stratton and Pretty Deadly. Nia came out. She wasn't in love with the pink and all that stuff that is very Tiffy-esque. But maybe my favorite part was Pretty Deadly, the musical. You know what? It was so corny and it's silly and stupid. And more than anything, like I think Pretty Deadly is playful. They're fun. They're dumb. It's a weird gimmick. But I think they're finding a way to make it work here. And so they came out and sang this song and danced for Nia Jax about her being the champion and all that stuff. And, I loved it. I ate it up. So I hope they continue on this path with this sort of like, it's weird. It's a weird dynamic. You've got Nia Jax, who's like this big, tough lady. And then you've got this very like girly girl in Tiffy, and then you've got Pretty Deadly, who are like male models and all that stuff. So it's like one of these things is not like the other, right? It's the Sesame Street effect. So I'm curious to see what happens there. But uh, last week we had an encounter with Chelsea Green and Piper Niven with Tiffy, um, and my mind kind of got to running a little bit with this one. I think maybe we could see a Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton versus Chelsea and Piper Niven sort of match feud in the future. Um, but for right now, going back to Nia's celebration, Mi Chin came in and started hitting them all with the kendo stick or whatever it was. And so now Mi Chin is sort of the front runner for this title shot against Nia Jax, which I don't know. It kind of feels like it's out of nowhere. Mi Chin really hasn't had a presence in the last two and a half. Like I don't know. She just hasn't been around very much in the big scheme of things. So it's interesting to see that they're bringing Mi Chin in as the number one contender for Nia's title. I get it. Like you got to mix some newer faces into the competition. Um, I don't think Bailey's the right move to have her face Nia Jax again. Like we already have these sort of reoccurring matchups with Andrade in Carmelo, and then you also had the Braun Breaker and Sami Zayn thing. Like we don't need another rivalry that's running like 5 matches in a row against each other. Um, so I appreciate them mixing in some new faces into this. So we'll see how that goes. I don't really think much is going to come of this rivalry. I think she'll beat Meechin and we'll move on to the next one. I think eventually what it is leading up to is some sort of Tiffy cashes in on Naya. Naya's not grateful for everything that Tiffy's doing for her to celebrate her as champion, something like that. Um, um, and so, we'll see. Does that happen at Bash in Berlin? I don't think so. I think it's going to drag on a little bit longer than that. But the biggest takeaway here, Pretty Deadly, the musical. I'm in. I want to see more. I want to see the second act of this musical. Next up on Friday night, we had Carmelo Hayes versus Andrade 3. And look, it was another great match. These two can really put on a show with each other. And I'm not mad about it, but I'm just like, are we going to the hole one too many times here? And I think you have to kind of put yourself in the perspective of a fan on TV versus being a fan in person. And so if I'm a fan in person watching this, uh, you know, I would be stoked because I think this would be a fantastic match to see live. These guys go all out, and it seems like they have a really good energy with each other, and they put on a good show. So shout out to those guys. It's not that they put on a bad match. It's just like, okay, for the last 3 weeks now, you've been running this same match back and forth. So you know, like eventually we got to come to some sort of conclusion with this rivalry here. And I don't know what that is because neither one of them has a belt. I'm not really sure why we're going back to back to back with these two. And it seems like we're gonna go another back to back. So maybe they're setting up a match for Batch and Berlin. I don't think so, but there's got to be some sort of conclusion here. We got to figure out what we're doing with these two. Even though the matches themselves have been spectacular. These guys are killing it. So shout out to them. Um, After that, we had the solo in Tama Tonga segment where Solo's talking about if Roman Reigns is going to be the head of the table, or I'm sorry, the tribal chief, he's got to take the Ula Fala, the little chili pepper necklace, from me. And if he does, we will acknowledge him, but he needs to acknowledge me. Da 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 da. My biggest question is they did two segments where Solo's looking at the Ula Fala and he's like staring at it super close. Let's take a look at, like, come on, bro. What are you looking at these things like that for? Like, it's weird. Um so I don't know. It like Solo, come on, bro. Put the chili peppers down. Walk away. You're not the original tribal chief. So give it up. You done. Or so we think. But before we get to that, they also ran a promo for Giovanni Da Vinci, and he's been out of it for a little bit ever since Ludwig Kaiser, uh, sent him packing out of Imperium, and so he hasn't been gone that long. He's been gone what, a month, something like that, but here he is, he reappears, and he sort of seems like this like Miami, Vegas playboy. And it does sort of feel like I think what Kaiser's trying to do is like this European elegance thing. But I'm glad they're giving this dude sort of a rebrand, because he was very bland when he was with Imperium. He wasn't even sitting in the passenger seat. He was sitting in like the third row, even though there was only three of them. He was sitting in the way back. So good on him. Good on WWE for trying to rebrand this guy a little bit and get him a little bit more active. It seems like he's going to be focused morely on like a solo run here, and that's cool. I, y- you know, I think about Imperium. Um, what is Imperium? It's Gunther with an occasional Ludwig Kaiser sighting, and I still think they need another dynamic in there. I would love to see Ilya Dragunov in there, become a part of Imperium and have them be like an actual faction rather than just two guys who call themselves something. So um, I like what they're doing with Giovanni, but time will tell, and hopefully it's something that sticks. But it is sort of reminiscent of like a Happy Corbin sort of gimmick, but um, we'll see. Um, Next up, they had a segment with Jade, Bianca, and Naomi that foreshadows the Naomi versus Blair Davenport match, which Blair won. But during that promo, you saw Carmelo Hayes come out and join up with the girls, and I was thinking to myself, like, I actually kind of like this. Obviously, like most of the factions that are in the WWE are typically all male, and they have like one woman on in their faction. That's pretty typical, but I think they got a cool opportunity here to sort of buck that trend and flip it on its head a little bit. And you could have these three with Carmelo Hayes, and I think you might have a little bit of lightning in a bottle. And I think this would help boost Carmelo Hayes a little bit. N- Not that they're not giving Carmelo chances; they're giving him some time on the screen, and they're giving him some spotlight. like I said, those matches with Andrade have been awesome. So shout out to shout out to Carmelo. But I think you could form something really cool here that's different. I can't think of a time that there were ever was like a female dominated faction with like one guy in it, and so I think it could be something different. I think it could be something fun, and I think they mix well together. So I'm curious to see where that goes. Um, After that, they ran Kevin Owens out against Grayson Waller, and obviously we've got the match with KO and Cody coming up. And the one thing that I noticed is that KO came out with this red shirt with the red letters. Um, and typically he's been running like the blue or the white KO. I know that him and Randy Orton had the RKO shirts going. It's kind of wild too that they run these brand new shirts for like a 1 week, 1 month stint. But people are buying them. So, but it was interesting to me that KO came out with the red logo shirt this week. My buddy Ryan in Sacktown has been talking about Kevin Owens turning heel possibly. And at first I was like, nah, like I think he's too much of a crowd favorite for him to turn heel. But now I'm not so sure. Um, I think the more he confronts Cody, like he has been, I think yes, there's still that I respect you, you get the title shot sort of thing, but I think you got to see a little bit of Kevin Owens like um switch a little bit recently, and I'm not so sure that Kevin Owens is going to walk out of Bash in Berlin as a good guy. Um I'm sort of fading him staying a face, and I think he could switch heel. So I think like the red logo is maybe a little bit of foreshadowing for good old KO here. So we'll see. We got two more Smackdowns before Bash in Berlin on the 31st. Um, so things can change. Obviously, we know that it's WWE. Things can change like that, and I'm starting to think that they might. Next, we had LA Knight versus um, Santos, and LA Knight pulled some boss shit, as I like to say. He didn't even go to the ring. He ran his segment by the entrance, and I love this sort of stuff where it's like he just comes out. He doesn't even go to the ring. He's just gonna talk his shit at the entrance, and his line of "I'm gonna knock your little churro in the dirt." That was pretty funny to me. So I like I said last week, I think this is a great rivalry for him to start off with his championship run. I think WWE is trying to boost Santos a little bit as well, and so I think this is a good play for both of them. They've had a ton of matches in the recent past as well, and so I think you're really piggybacking off of their recent matches, and I think this is a good move for both of them. Let's get LA Knight sort of comfortable as being a champion. I think this is a great matchup for him to retain and then move on to the next opponent, whoever that is. Um, my only thing, okay, you've revamped LA's look a little bit. You got him a new vest that I think looks great. You revamped his theme music, which, like I said, it reminds me of like the evolution of the Rock's theme song and how it changed to a little bit heavier, maybe less of like that electronic sound. and more like heavy drums and guitar or whatever. Um, but here's the one thing that I think we need to do with LA Knight is we need to expand beyond the BFT. Not saying that the BFT's a bad move, but I don't think it's the greatest. I don't like the setup of it. I don't like the execution of it all the time. I think it's a hard move for the opponent to um, hit and I think about the times when The Rock or Stone Cold would hit any one of their finishers, right? Uh, you get this, if Austin hits you with the stunner, like a lot of people just bounce straight up, and it leaves room for the dramatic effect that it had on him, and I just don't see how um, LA Knight's opponents could dramatically react after being hit with the BFT. They're going face down into the mat. And I think it's a tough move to pull off one for LA Knight, but maybe even tougher for his opponents to um, give that reaction that like they got smacked, right? And so, thinking about maybe sort of the more current WWE, a lot of these guys have multiple finishers. And I would love LA Knight to introduce another type of finisher. And maybe he still hits the BFT every once in a while, but give his opponent something that's easy for him to like react to or be affected by. Um, And I think what's always funny is when you see wrestlers bust out like a new move, the announcers always sell it like, "Oh, he's always had that in his repertoire, and he's always been able to do this move." And so I think the announcers there's an onus on them to sell this move on LA Knight's behalf, and but I think he needs a new move um, to sell as his finisher because that's like the one missing piece for me with LA Knight. Everything else is great, and I love the dude. I think he's great. Um, but that's kind of my thoughts on that. Um, the last match of the night, we have the Street Profits versus DIY, and I talked about this last week, but they didn't change the side plates on the tag team belts um, for the Bloodline, and my boy Ryan once again brought up if you caught the Friday drop on the King's Court, he mentioned that they have two sets of belts. One that they have that's like a traveling belt that's maybe just generic, um, and then they have the current one. So. Um, if something doesn't make it on the flight or whatever, like at least they have a belt for someone to drag out, and that very well could be the case. Um, so I thought that the DIY was for sure going to beat the Street Profits here, but they didn't. And this is interesting to me because, well, first I want to say about this match, like that was a good match by both Street Profits and DIY, and I thought they put on a hell of a show on Friday night. So props to them. But the Street Profits finally won. They finally get a tag team title push here, and I think they proved why they deserve one on Friday night. My other question with the Street Profits is where's Bobby Lashley? You had him out here for about a month or two with the Street Profits. Now, I don't know when the last time we saw Bobby Lashley was, um, but he seems to be out of the picture for all intents and purposes. But my question is, I don't think the Bloodline is gonna hold those titles for very long, and so is this the time that the Street Profits finally get a push here to hold a tag championship? And I could see it. I don't see the Bloodline holding those tag titles. Um, and so I could see Street Profits getting over on Tama Tonga and Tongaloa for the tag championships. And then lastly, to close out the night, you bring out the Bloodline, and here comes Roman out here to fight for his Ula Fala necklace, the chili pepper necklace. Um, but this time, well, once again, Roman doesn't get the chili peppers. Although the difference is that this time the bloodline bested Roman, and you see uh, you see them standing over Roman's lifeless body as he lay in the middle of the ring. And so if I'm going to read into this, now they're building it so that Roman alone cannot beat the bloodline. And so what is Roman going to have to do to beat the new bloodline? Well, he's going to have to team up with someone or someone's in order to defeat the bloodline and take back the Ulafala, reclaim the head of the table, the original tribal chief. And like I've said, I foresee him reuniting with the old bloodline, Jimmy, Jay, and possibly Sami Zayn. Sammy doesn't have the Intercontinental Championship anymore, so he's freed up there. We haven't seen a ton of Jay. We have seen nothing of Jimmy in the last, what, 2, 3 months? So I think they're setting a comeback up for these guys to reunite and be able to take out the new school bloodline. So I think we'll see more over the next couple weeks, but as far as like some sort of match at Bash in Berlin, I don't think we're there yet. I think the drama is going to build a little bit over the next month and a half, and lead into, I believe it's War Games that's after this, which should happen in September. Um, so that's where I see this going. But we'll just have to wait and see. Other than that, that's sort of all I got for today. Monday Night Raw tomorrow. I'm going to try and hit you guys with another podcast on Tuesday or Wednesday, sort of recapping Raw and where we're at. Maybe a preview for SmackDown if that's available, and we'll kind of take it from there. But that's all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in a couple days. Let's get this thing on track.